What do you think when you hear this instrument? Maybe of endless mystical waterfalls or magical worlds full of wizards and fairies. Maybe you think of a cozy living room with a glowing Christmas tree. All these images and many more can be evoked by this instrument, the celesta. This sound has become an established element of film music. Just think of the legendary beginning of Harry Potter. A dark alley, a handful of street lamps, a small gathering of mystical characters from the wizarding world, and, of course, the celesta. The name originally comes from the French celeste, which means heavenly. The sound of a celesta is similar to that of a glockenspiel, so it's generally rich in harmonics. However, the playing possibilities on the celesta are much more varied. For example, this keyboard allows not only single strokes, but also entire scale runs, glissandi, arpeggios, as well as large-scale chords. The celesta has become a seminal part of modern symphonic music, but actually it hasn't been around for that long, so how did it come into being? A preliminary form of the celesta was invented as early as 1788 by the Irishman Charles Glagherty. The sound of his instrument, euton, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, was said to be unsurpassed in sweetness and softness by either a glass harmonica or a stringed instrument. The experimental instrument consisted of a hollow wooden box in which a series of tuning forks would be struck by little hammers, and these hammers were operated by keys on a keyboard. This instrument, with a range of 3 to 6 octaves, never got beyond the experimental stage. In 1866, Victor Mustel constructed the typophone, which is a tuning fork piano, and this was quite similar to the sound of the later celesta, but it couldn't establish itself because its volume was far too low. In terms of sound production, it was probably very similar to the Scottish dulcitone, which was created at about the same time. In 1886, Victor's son, Auguste, finally succeeded. He received the patent for the celesta, which was optimally constructed. It sounded gentle and lovely, but it was audible and clear over long distances. Its main sound generators are sound plates made of steel, which lie on felt strips above hollow resonators made of wood. The steel plates are struck from above with felt-covered hammers. The hammers are mechanically connected to the keyboard. As with a piano, not all the hammers on the celesta are the same size and weight. On the lower notes, larger hammers with a thicker layer of felt produce a particularly soft sound. This soft sound in the lower register is one of the advantages of the celesta. Interestingly, the Mustal company stopped production in the mid-1970s, and nowadays only the German company Schiedmayer produces worldwide celestas, according to Mustal's original patent. Celestas are so rare and unique that they are only made on request, so if you want to order a celesta, you will have to wait a long time and scrape together quite a bit of money. The celesta first became known worldwide through a very famous composer, Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky. He was wandering through Paris one day before setting off for America when he heard the celesta. It was love at first hearing. Tchaikovsky immediately wrote to a friend in Russia asking to order him an instrument for 1,200 francs. "I don't want you to show the celesta to anyone, especially not Rimsky-Korsakov or Glazunov. I am to be the first to use this instrument," he said. The celesta became world famous through its use in the Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy in 1892. That's a dance from the Nutcracker, and numerous ballet productions around the globe wanted to perform this popular ballet, so opera houses and orchestras all over ordered this novel instrument. And so it would seem that Tchaikovsky was the first to use the celesta in the orchestra. But actually, Ernest Chausson had used it slightly earlier, in December of 1888, in some incidental music written for small orchestra for a production of Shakespeare's The Tempest. Here, the celesta flows beautifully and accompanies dramatic vocal soloists alongside strings, a harp, percussion, and wind instruments. Later, Gustav Holst used the celesta to represent the mystical Neptune in the planets. Listen to this. It also features prominently in Bela Bartok's 1936 Music for Strings, Percussion and Celesta. Impressionist composers such as Ravel and Debussy were also fond of the celeste, and of course it then features prominently in the pieces of late Romantic composers such as Richard Strauss and Mahler. For example, in Mahler's 8th Symphony, in his Das Lied von der Erde, and in his 6th Symphony. Many composers associated water and light with the timbre of the celeste. When Maurice Ravel arranged a piano piece called Un Bach sur l'Océan for the orchestra, he used the celeste to represent light glittering on the surface of the ocean. Perhaps you can hear how well the celeste fits into this orchestral palette. Italian composer Respighi uses this instrument to represent a similar concept in The Fountains of Rome, part of his Roman trilogy. Respighi describes 4 different fountains in Rome, with the celeste helping to create that watery effect. And the waterfalls in Strauss's Alpine Symphony, of course, they're represented by a celeste. It really sounds like a shiny, shimmering waterfall glistening at us in the afternoon sun. The metallic character fits here so much better than the strongly percussive sound of, say, a piano. In addition, difficult glockenspiel parts that were originally composed for the glockenspiel are often played on the celeste today because of their similar sound character. For example, there's a part from Mozart's The Magic Flute. Or maybe listen to Messiaen's Oiseau Exotique. And of course, the celeste has found its place in film music. When the fairy appears in Pinocchio and brings the little wooden boy to life, you hear a magical, light, airy celeste. And of course, it's hard to imagine soundtracks like Harry Potter, E.T. or Home Alone without this instrument. It makes brooms fly, it takes us on journeys with aliens from distant planets, and it even conveys the pesky antics of a child left on his own at Christmas time. All these sounds, worlds, and images are created by this one instrument, the celeste, the instrument of heaven. Do you struggle with the essential core skills of music? I'm talking about sight reading, writing, and ear training. Many people have strong musical ambitions, but have never had the opportunity to develop these skills. Without them, you are missing so much of what music has to offer, and you're holding yourself back from real development. I want to introduce you to the Musicality training program, a complete, holistic, step-by-step training program for your musicianship, from absolute beginnings to a university level of skill. This program will guide you every step of the way to develop the key skills needed to become a first-rate musician. It's designed to develop your musicianship from every angle, with bite-sized theory lessons followed immediately by a wide range of exercises to help that theory really sink in. This program has worked on hundreds of musicians, and getting started is super simple. First, head to the website, then simply sign up for the program. It takes 2 minutes. And finally, you follow through with each stage of the program step by step and watch as your musicianship develops significantly. Remember, if you want to become a confident musician, you need to take your training seriously. And if you want to transform your musicianship, develop great ears, sight reading, and writing skills, then your next step is to go ahead and get registered for this training program.